Hey people, welcome to another edition of Let's Talk About It. I'm Short Trini, and today's topic is going to be none other than me. So without any further ado, let's talk about it. Hey people, Short Trini here. Welcome to another edition of Let's Talk About It. On today's edition, we're going to talk about me and what it's like living with a disability. For all of you who don't know, I was born with a disability called Spina Bifida. And basically what it is, it's a birth defect where your spine doesn't form properly. It doesn't develop properly. And it can cause complications from your legs not working properly, your bladder not working properly. It can affect your brain. It can affect your bladder and your bowels. Mine just happened to affect my legs, and I had to use a wheelchair for the first 8 years of my life. I was in a wheelchair. It wasn't until I was about 9 or 10 years old that I took my first steps on a pair of crutches. And I had a lot of surgeries. I had 19 surgeries overall. You name it, I've had it. I've had surgeries for what they call hydrocephalus, which is a companion defect that goes along with spina bifida. And basically what hydrocephalus is that the fluid in your brain, because in your brain you have a lot of fluid, you have water around your brain. And with people with hydrocephalus, it doesn't drain properly. So they have to insert a shunt in order for that water to come down and drain out properly. Aside from that, until I was about age 8 or 9, I wore braces on my legs. As a matter of fact, I wore braces from my hips right down to my legs, as well as using a wheelchair. And as I said before, it wasn't until about 19 years old that I took my first steps on 2 crutches. Now, out of the 4 million babies that are born each year, 1,000 to 2,500 of those babies are born with some form of spina bifida. Now, there are 3 forms. Now, the first form is spina bifida oculata. And basically what that is, it's just a scarring of the spine. You don't have any ill effects from it. You're walking normally, but there's still some scarring on the spine. And unless you do testing, you will never know that that person has that form of spina bifida because they are normal. The second form of spina bifida would be called meningesical spina bifida. And that's when the spine develops fluid, and the fluid has to be drained. Now, the side effect of that is similar to what I have. You have some scarring as well as some fluid that is pressing on the nerves that doesn't allow you to function and walk properly. Now, fortunately or unfortunately, I have the most severe form, and that is meningesicalis, and that affected, again, my legs, my bowel control, my walking, and I also developed hydrocephalus. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, I want to talk about how or what it's like being a disabled person. Now, I was born in Trinidad in the 60s, and back then, medicine wasn't, medicine and technology weren't as advanced as it is now. So they didn't know that I had this birth defect until I was born. And my parents just had to deal with it. I thank God for my mom and my dad, actually, for putting up with me. I come from a large family. I come from a family of 6 siblings. And I'm the only one with a disability. But my brothers, and they're all boys, my brothers never treated me special or, like I had a disability. And if it wasn't for that, I don't know where I'd be. Because if anybody knows about Caribbean culture and how they look upon disabled people like me, they hide us. Because to some, in certain parts of the West Indies, a disabled or mentally challenged child is looked upon as bad luck. So they hide us. And my mother and father never hit us, never hit me, and I'm glad for that. I came to the States at the age of 2 for medical treatment, and I've had 19 surgeries, as I mentioned before. I've had it for my hydrocephalus. I've had it to correct my legs, because when I was first born, I had club feet. So instead of my legs being this way, I used to walk on my ankles this way. So I've had a lot of surgeries on my feet to correct them. I've also had a lot of surgeries on my hips because my hips were dislocated. So they had to correct that. Not to mention my very first surgery, about a day or 2 old, where they had to put my spine back into my spinal column, because again, with spina bifida, your spine is born outside of your body and your spinal column isn't closed. So they had to open it up, put it back in, close it up. Growing up as a disabled person was interesting. My friends never treated me like I had a disability. I played ball. I hung out, still hang out. They always included me in baseball, basketball, even football. Of course, I was always the quarterback because I couldn't run. That made for a lot of sacks. Because those people we played against didn't take any pity on me. And they sacked me real hard. They tackled me real hard. But I just rolled with the punches. I went to a normal school, a regular school, I should say, with regular students. And I went to a regular college. I went to Brooklyn College here in New York. I got my degree. And I went on to, I got my degree actually in political science. Sorry about that, forgot. And from there, I worked in the customer service and sales industry for 20 plus years. And I retired in 2010 because the commute, the hustle and bustle. I worked in Jersey and I live in Brooklyn. So the commute and the hustle and bustle, after a while, it just wore on me. So I just got out. I got out of the rat race. In terms of dating, that's interesting. I like girls. I like regular girls, who have normal things about them. Now that's not saying that I wouldn't date a disabled person like myself. But a lot of people believe that because you're disabled, you want to date someone just like you. And I'm going to tell you something. That's not true. Because I'm a disabled Caribbean black man, and I like my Caribbean women, no matter what size they are, no matter what shape they are. And so that's what I like. Everybody has their own preference. That's my preference. Is it a little different? Yeah, it's a little different. You know, I can't hold my partner's hand as I walk. So what, I got to sit down, you know, and hold her hand. But it does make life interesting. What else can I say about myself? I love music. You know, I love any facet of music. I love learning and from new things. I love talking. I guess this is one of the reasons why I developed this channel, because I see a lot of things going on in the world, and I have something to say about it. Now, because of my disability, I can't go out there and protest like I used to. Man, in my 20s and my 30s, I'd be out there, you know, protesting with the Black Lives Matter movement and, you know, this, that, and the third. But this channel, I developed this channel as an outlet. Not only because of the quarantine, but I have a lot to say, and this is my way of saying it. In terms of me being treated special, I was never treated special. I got my behind whooped just like my brothers. Matter of fact, I think I got my behind whooped even more. As a matter of fact, I remember I was about 12, and I had done something, and my mother, man, she put a licking on me that I would never forget. And it was actually during this time, the summer months, and I was grounded for a while. But that's when I knew that my mom looked at me like all of her other children, all of her other sons. You are normal and you're going to be punished, just like the others. And I'm glad for it. I'll be 53 this year, and I look back at my life, and I've lived a long, happy life, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. I've gone on trips, I've gone partying, you name it, I've done it, with my 2 crutches and my 2 legs, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. You know, when these young pups look at me and go, man, I want to do this, that, and the third, I laugh, because I've already done it. The highlight of my life was walking home from 9/11. I walked 4 miles home. And if anybody's familiar with Manhattan, I walked from 23rd, West 23rd and 6th to Crown Heights, Brooklyn. It took me 3.5 hours on 9/11, but I made it home. A couple of years later, we had a blackout on the East Coast, and I did the very same walk all over again. You know, I get my strength from my mother, because my mother could have given me up, and she didn't. My mother is my biggest cheerleader, and I love her to death. And I don't look at my disability as a hindrance. I look at it as a blessing. My disability lets other people know that it's going to be all right. And it could be worse. It could always be worse. You know? But anyhow, for those of you who like the content of my channel, please like, share, and subscribe. If you have any questions for me about my disability, about spina bifida, please leave a comment. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you guys have, okay? I will say this. Whenever you see a disabled person, say good morning to them. If you have a question for them, ask them. instead of staring, because most of us don't like staring. For you parents out there, anytime you are with your child and you come across a disabled person, please don't tell them, don't stare, it's rude. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to let them know that it's okay to come to us and ask us a question. Because if they don't ask us, they're going to ask someone else, probably someone who doesn't have a disability, and they're going to give them the wrong answer. And that's how ignorance is started. So don't do that. If you see a disabled person and your child wants to ask them a question, encourage it. I'm sure that disabled person will be more than happy to answer those questions, because the more we share about our disability, the better this world will become. And some disabilities are not often the ones you can see. We have a lot of disabled people on the inside. So let's stop that stigma that asking a question and staring is a bad thing. Okay? I thank you again for joining my channel. I thank you again for watching. Remember, if you like this content, like, share, and subscribe. Until my next episode, let's talk about it. Peace.